What's up, Taiwan? I'm Tiffany Wong with news from here in Taiwan and around the world. President Lai Ching-te has used his New Year's speech to urge Taiwanese people to keep walking firmly on the path of democracy. In a televised address, Lai spoke about achievements in 2024 and said the same Team Taiwan spirit is needed this year. Lai, along with Vice President Kim Xiao, also came out for the New Year's Day flag-raising ceremony. We'll have more on that in a moment. But first, Joyce Sung breaks down key messages from Lai's speech.
国际的局势快速变化，台湾更要继续以稳健的步伐向前迈进。
In his first New Year's address as president, Lai Ching-te encouraged the Taiwanese people to keep demonstrating to the international community the value of the country's democracy. Pointing to wins in technology, the economy, and world-class sporting events in 2024, Lai said Taiwan's efforts are being seen and praised, despite continued coercion by neighboring China, threatening to take the self-ruled nation by force. Last year, Beijing launched large-scale military exercises dubbed Joint Sword around Taiwan after two of Lai's major speeches, viewing the elected president as a dangerous separatist. Looking ahead, Lai welcomed exchanges with China, but questioned Beijing's goodwill, given it limits things like Chinese tourism and visiting students to Taiwan.
我们欢迎跟中国进行 对等尊严、健康有序的交流，不必采取这些方法因为这对两岸的交流合作跟取得台湾人民的信任是没有任何帮助。
Lai and his ruling Democratic Progressive Party, or DPP, have also faced major tests domestically. Despite winning a historic third straight term in top office, in the legislature, they lost their majority. Lawmakers clashed physically on multiple occasions over opposition party Kuomintang-led reform bills, supported by the smaller opposition force, the Taiwan People's Party. Lai recognized party factions are a part of democratic politics. He urged the resolve must be in line with the Constitution.
立法院所通过的争议性法案，行政院有权提出复议。
Lai says 2025 will be a challenging year for democracies, with ongoing wars in Ukraine and Gaza and threats from authoritarian regimes like those in China and Russia. Despite the challenges that may come, Lai affirmed that Taiwan's values in freedom and democracy, which have earned it global trust and partnership, are the country's only way forward. Andy Xue and Joyce Zhen for TaiwanPlus.
Lai has also spent the first day of 2025 at his first flag-raising ceremony as president. Thousands turned out to watch the event despite the cold temperatures. Leslie Liao was there.
A new day, a new year. Thousands of people have gathered at Taiwan's presidential office to mark the first day of 2025 with the traditional flag-raising ceremony. People arrived before dawn, braving chilly weather to witness President Lai Ching-te and Vice President Kim Xiao ring in the new year.
在台北那么久也没有过来升旗过，所以反正就是还有时间，就想说过来看看，要不然
新的一年，然后就是想说来体验一下升旗典礼，然后感受一下。
第一次来看那个101烟火，想要都已经1、2点了，就干脆来升旗一下。
对，我们要走得过来的，从信义走过来。
对，
走多久啊
？1小时。
1小时。
因为我们爱国啊，台湾 No.1。
This is Lai's first New Year's flag-raising ceremony since becoming president, but he did attend last year in his capacity as vice president. In his first address to the nation in 2025, Lai wished the people a happy new year.
各位国人同胞，我们同甘共苦，荣辱与共，我们一起流泪欢笑，我们都是一家人，都是 Team Taiwan。
The celebrations started early and will continue on throughout the day. A highlight of this year's program is a performance from Indonesian migrant worker band Jubah Hitam. Their inclusion highlights the important role migrant workers play in Taiwan's society. Aside from performances, there's also going to be a market, movie screenings, and seminars, all to celebrate the beginning of 2025. Justin Wu and Leslie Liao for TaiwanPlus.
The main opposition Kuomintang held its own flag-raising event outside party headquarters. In his speech, KMT Chair Erect criticized President Lai and the ruling Democratic Progressive Party's actions in 2024.
尤其是赖清德政府之下，只能用一个字来形容，就是斗。赖政府、民进党斗在野党。 斗全民，以少数甚至是双少数要斗多数，而两岸同样的要斗，不断的斗。
In his speech, Zhu also stressed Taiwan's connections to China, saying the people of Taiwan are of Chinese heritage. He called for unity within the country in the year ahead for the peace and prosperity of Taiwan. A record number of Chinese Coast Guard ships breached restricted waters around Taiwan's outlying islands of Kinmen in 2024. New figures have been released on the incursions. Jaime Okan is in Taipei for us with the details. Jaime, what is Taiwan's Coast Guard saying?
Well, Taiwan's Coast Guard says that since February of 2024, there have been 52 incidents where China's Coast Guard breaches restricted waters in the outlying islands of Kinmen, and some sources have told me that that is the highest number that they've ever seen. Now, Kinmen is one of the closest islands to China, about 4 kilometers off the coast of Xiamen. So this area from the start already has a pretty high level of law enforcement activity because China and Taiwan are both trying to monitor their borders. The issue here goes back to February when 2 Chinese fishers died in a chase with Taiwan's Coast Guard after resisting a search. And since that moment is when China really started to up its Coast Guard presence to coerce and harass Taiwan. Now, these tactics of using Coast Guard ships and law enforcement and smaller fishing vessels is all part of Beijing's gray zone warfare strategy that's happening not just in Kinmen but all around Taiwan. Now, the goal of that gray zone warfare is to put pressure on Taiwan without actually having to use the military, creating a gray area in how Taiwan responds to that aggression, which is usually with just a warning. Take a listen to one of the English versions of that warning.
You have entered ROC Taiwan restricted waters without permission. Your actions have destabilized maritime order and security of ROC Taiwan. Adjust your course and leave our restricted waters immediately.
Some of the Chinese Coast Guard ships that we've seen operating around Taiwan actually participated in large-scale military exercises earlier this year. And so there's a growing concern that Beijing is learning how to fuse together the Coast Guard, law enforcement, and the military to really maximize the way it puts pressure on Taiwan. And so for the Coast Guard here, which has a much smaller fleet, it's going to be a major challenge in trying to handle and maintain that aggression going into this year.
Thanks for that explanation, Jaime. That was Jaime Okan reporting from the TaiwanPlus newsroom in Taipei. There has been a slew of corruption investigations into public officials in the past year. And in the latest verdict, Yilan County Chief Lin Zimiao has been found guilty of corruption and money laundering. Sentenced to 12.5 years, but still holding her head high, 72-year-old Yilan County Magistrate Lin Zimiao says she will appeal after being convicted of corruption regarding a property deal.
我没有做坏事，我没做，现在一点给我判这重，非常难过，非常的痛心。大家知影讲，台湾的司法已经被政治绑架了，咱就继续上诉啊。
Prosecutors say Lin provided a tax cut to a landowner in exchange for use of a property for her 2018 campaign headquarters, and her party, the Kuomintang's local headquarters, for the 2020 presidential campaign season. She also had over $2 million in transactions from an account that she could not explain. Lin was found guilty of misusing public funds, money laundering, and improper record keeping. The court ordered Lin to return almost $1 million in illegal profits. She will also be barred from holding public office for 6 years, with her deputy Lin Maosheng taking over as acting magistrate.
被告林之妙身为民选首长了哈， 没有恪尽职责，欲以私人情谊指挥下属破坏公务员执行职务之公正性。本院就我个人的经历是没有这个所谓政治力介入的问题。
Local officials from the ruling Democratic Progressive Party praised the corruption verdict.
让宪政正常运作，挽救烂到不行的行政效力了。
13 others involved in the property deal were also sentenced on Tuesday, including Lin's daughter. Lin plans to file an appeal, confident she can clear her name. Prosecutors may appeal as well, seeking an even harsher sentence. Kama Shri and Tiffany Wong for TaiwanPlus. Taiwan's flu epidemic is worsening, with 10 more people dying from the illness last week. This brings the number of influenza deaths to 85 since October, the highest in a decade. Taiwan Centers for Disease Control expects flu infections to peak around Lunar New Year toward the end of January. Officials are encouraging people to get vaccinated before traveling for the holidays. Authorities say that all 179 victims of the worst plane crash on South Korean soil have been identified. That's as a memorial altar for victims was opened at the airport where the crash occurred. The altar at the Muan airport, which was requested by victims' families, is only open to family members of the deceased, but will eventually be open to the public. 2 crew members were the only survivors of the Jeju Air flight that crashed after skidding off the end of a runway on Sunday. South Korea's acting president Choi Sang-mok says he will fill vacancies in the country's constitutional court as it's set to rule on the impeachment of suspended President Yoon Suk-yeol for declaring martial law.
대통령 권한대행을 승계한 저는 하루라도 빨리 정치적 불확실성과 사회 갈등을 종식시켜 경제와 민생 위기 가능성 차단이 필요하다는 절박함에 헌법재판관을 임명하기로 결정하였습니다.
Choi is the second acting president since Yoon was impeached in mid-December. His predecessor, Prime Minister Han Duck-soo, was also impeached for refusing to appoint justices to the court. The 9-member court needs at least 6 justices to rule on the impeachments, and 3 seats remain vacant. Choi plans to appoint 2 justices immediately and a 3rd once political parties agree on a nominee. An island-wide blackout left millions of people across Puerto Rico without power on New Year's Eve, with officials saying it will take days to restore the grid.
Normalizar, estamos hablando de unas 48 horas aproximadamente, ya nosotros comenzamos a restablecer el servicio. Muchos lugares del área metropolitana ya cuentan con servicio, específicamente el área del centro médico, los hospitales que se encuentran ahí, que es algo sumamente importante.
Residents across the U.S. territory lined up for food and gas as the island's power grid collapsed. Luma Energy, which supplies much of Puerto Rico's electricity, says they are investigating the cause. Puerto Rico has long faced chronic power outages as its infrastructure crumbles, especially after it was devastated by Category 4 Hurricane Maria in 2017. Residents say they have come to expect these types of outages.
Lamentablemente, llevamos tiempo con esta problemática, pero hace un par de meses que habían rumores que podía haber pasado lo que pasó hoy.
Thank you for watching What's Up Taiwan. You can visit the TaiwanPlus website or follow our social media for more stories from Taiwan and around the world. Finally, take a look at Taipei 101's spectacular fireworks show welcoming 2025. Wishing everyone a Happy New Year. I'm Tiffany Wong. Take care and see you next time.
Thank you for watching TaiwanPlus News. For more stories from Taiwan and around the rest of the world, please visit the TaiwanPlus website or follow us on social media.